Hi, Ann. Carol, I know you're
I need my screen.
Jeannie's
friend. Oh, and your background is beautiful, and I think they're for real. I think those are real flowers.
They are. They're from Lakeside last summer.
Oh,
Wow.
Lake Erie.
oh, wow. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
There we go. Now I can see everybody.
Cheryl's outside.
I'm outside. Yeah, Rory's taking a nap inside, and my condo's not that big, so I thought I better move outside. And it's such a lovely evening.
Oh,
That
yeah,
works.
it's nice.
Connie, your glasses are great. I love them. They're so
Thank
cute.
you. I'm wearing my grandson's school shirt, UC. So I thought I should put my red glasses on to match.
Oh man, Connie, if you're gonna wear UC, I should have Xavier on today. You know, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
big
My
rivals.
niece, my niece has, I think her undergrad's from Xavier and her doctorate's from UC.
Good. I'm so glad everybody's joining us. This is awesome.
Isn't
I
it
love
fun when it works?
I love
Andy, can
seeing
you hear
faces.
me?
I see
Oh,
Brent.
I lost somebody. Oh, no, there you are.
I'm here, but I'm not showing up.
Oh, hi, Nadine. It's Wendy. How are you?
I know it, but I don't seem to have a face.
You know what? If we don't get your video, we'll miss it because I'm telling you, everybody, she's a beautiful woman. But we can still hear you, and that's a good part.
Oh,
Julie, oh my
Well, if
gosh,
she goes, tell her, if you go up to the top there's a thing that looks like a movie camera. You probably have a line going through it. If you just touch
There
that.
I am.
Yes,
Oh,
Good.
yes.
Hi, everybody.
Good.
Sorry.
And now, Judy, you disappeared.
oh,
Hi,
no, what
Brenda.
happened to me?
Hi,
No,
Wendy. How are
no.
you? Good to see you.
Good. Anne's here. Beth, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad
Yeah,
you
I'm glad to
invited
be here.
someone. Thank you.
Yeah, I invited quite a few people, and I'm going to continue to invite some people. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
That's
for the
awesome.
invite.
Thank you.
I invited someone too.
Oh, good.
Yes.
I'd like to meet Jane.
Hello.
Hello.
Wait a minute. There she is. She's sitting
there,
across the porch.
Hi, Jane. Hello.
Jane is a docent at the Mob Museum in Las Vegas.
Ooh, fun.
Wow.
I bet that's interesting.
The mob?
Oh, yeah.
What does that stand for?
Mob
Mob.
stands for the
The
mob.
mob.
Mobster.
Oh, it's not an acronym. Okay.
It's not an
Yeah,
acronym.
it's not an acronym.
It's
Oh, yeah,
the
Museum of Boston or something like that. Yeah.
So in
no.
other words, the art is actually stolen?
It's
That's funny.
the history and culture of the mob and its
you doing,
influence
buddy?
in the United States, specifically in Las Vegas, I guess. Would you
Wow.
say
Yeah, well,
that?
sure. Sure, they're the ones that started Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
For sure.
One of our sons was married at the Flamingo Hotel.
Oh,
And we
fun.
got,
Wow. Wow.
One night on a trip to Las Vegas, I lost my husband before cell phones.
Heard this
and
story.
Bought a giant plastic cup of red wine from the pool behind the Flamingo and sat on a bench and watched weddings. And I thought to myself, I should not drink this entire glass, plastic of red wine. But I did, and by the end, I was part of weddings. I was hugging them.
Are you singing, Wendy?
we have some stories
I
from
can
the
see
wedding
that.
too. That pool is giant, and our pastor, who is very conservative in some aspects and politically a liberal, but anyway, so they were there, and he and his wife went looking for this pool that they heard about. This pool is giant. It's the biggest swimming pool I've ever seen, and it has, Wendy, you can remember, it has different areas and like islands in the swimming pool, and it's not a rectangle. It's It's incredible. Palm trees, all this. And people the islands in the pool are large enough to have these chairs. Well, and he'd heard us talking about, and they went to this pool that was surrounded by a fence. And they thought, and this was pretty small. And Gordon loves to take pictures and was taking pictures of everything. And they said, oh, no pictures here. Put your camera away. Oh, he did. And then they noticed they were the only ones with bathing suits on.
Oh my.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
You would have to know them to know how startled they were.
That's it.
That's funny. That's good, Connie.
That's the best story about the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
did
I'm
you find out whose swimming pool was it?
Well, it's actually part of the Flamingo Hotel, but it's they missed the sign that said bathing suits optional. But they also, and of course that's hanging, that's the sign, and next to it is there's a picture of a camera with a line through it, and they missed that too. So I mean, I'll
an
never
experience.
live that down. Yeah.
All right, let's we've given folks a little buffer to join us. So let's go ahead and dive in. And if we get a few joiners along the way, we'll let them introduce themselves. I am Shiloh Todorov. I am in Columbus, and I am the fundraising and finance director for the Matriots PAC for the last 14 months or so. You all obviously know each other quite well, and I hope we're going to have sort of conversation here. I don't think we need any weird Zoom formality, but I would love to start off by getting to know each of you a tiny little bit. So my first question is participatory. This is not the one that you need the piece of paper for. That one's coming up a little bit later, but I just want to get a sense by sort of show of hands the ways in which you are already politically active. So how many of you have run for office? Show of hands. Any candidates on the call? Did you ever think about it? That's question number 2. Yeah, me either. Have you volunteered for a campaign or a levy or an issue along the way? Okay, fantastic. Oh, great, I love it. Have you given political contributions in the past? Yeah, fantastic. This feels like a giveaway. I'm going to ask anyway because it's important this year in particular. Everyone votes?
Oh.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Can I vote twice? I want to vote twice.
Early and
I think Sue was voting twice.
Yeah, good answer. Oh gosh.
So I wanted to start to just sort of get an understanding of who you are a little bit with your activism and your politics. And as you're starting to think about the way that you're going to vote for November 3rd and the issues that are really driving you to the polls, I want to do a little introduction sort of through that lens. So as I call on you, I'll call on you in the way that I see you in the Brady Bunch here. And we'll leave our hosts and Sue, our board member, for last in terms of the introductions. But if you can tell us your name and the 1 or 2 issues that are just driving you as you think about who and how you're going to vote in November. I'd love to learn that about each of you, okay? Connie, you're in the middle of my screen. Can I start with you, Connie Dwyer?
Oh, okay. Did you ask how I'm going to vote?
No, what are the issues?
I mean the method I'm going to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually want to know, like, what are the issues that are driving you to the polls, right? Whether it's the environment or the economy or, tell us sort of what you're thinking about as you're deciding who to vote for.
Okay, so taking the long view, the thing that worries me the most about our country is economic inequality. I think about the French Revolution. I think about the Russian Revolution. I read an article a few months ago about in the 1980s, the chair of, I think it was General Electric, made about 20 times what someone who had years experience on the line was making. In 2018, that person was making 286 times what someone on the line was earning.
Wow.
So economic inequality, the environment concerns me, issues involving women, kindness, being able to have civil discourse with someone based on the issues and not attacking personalities. So those are all things that concern me.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And as you'll learn over the course of our time here together, trying to elect women through a shared values lens is really one of the ways that we're trying to affect that civility piece, right? You don't necessarily have to share party platforms to be able to talk civilly and kindly to each other, and that's one of our big ideas for the Matriots. Carol Wilhelm, will you go next?
I gathered from what I read today that we're not supposed to be political.
Well, the whole pack is sort of politics, so
yeah,
it's just nonpartisan.
I just have to say, Donald Trump is not someone that I think should be leading our country, and I'm concerned what he's doing to our place in the world. And of course, I agree with lots of what Connie said. The other thing I'll add is, with all the candidates that were running for the Democratic nomination, I see that there are lots of, wonderful women, capable women in this world. And so I have real positive feeling about what can be accomplished. And I like your goal. I really know nothing about this organization until I started reading some today. The 2028 and being equally represented. So.
Oh, great. Great, great, great. I'm glad that you caught that. There's much work to do in the next 9 years. Beth Long, tell us what's on your mind as you think about going to the polls.
All of the above. I mean, it's just, it's such a crazy environment right now. And I really I think for me, I've always had a place of comfort. And to see what's going on in the world around me is really disturbing, environmentally, economically, balance of power. And I just, when Cheryl sent out this invitation, it kind of prompted some thoughts about I probably need to start getting involved a little more instead of just kind of bitching and complaining on the sidelines, because it's real important, this election, and more so than I think has ever been in my entire life. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will tell you that I only came off the sidelines when I heard about this organization too. I had been bitching and moaning and sniping from the sidelines for 40 years, and finally decided, oh, there's an action you can take. Let me think more about that. Yeah. Action becomes overwhelming in this environment. What are you to do? What can you do? Yeah. So it's a overwhelming concept. Great. Ann Cushman, hello.
I'm probably the oldest person here.
No, you're not. I am.
I've always voted except for twice in my life, and I regret that. So I take voting really seriously. When I lived in another city, I was part of the League of Women Voters, and I was very active there. But after moving to Columbus 25 years ago, my life took a different turn, and I just have not been as active other than getting out to vote. And strangely enough, the first time that I did not vote in a presidential election was the first time that I was actually eligible to vote in a presidential election, and that was when Richard Nixon was running. And a little bit like some people might be thinking today, I felt like the choices were not good either way. And I was young enough then not to realize what that meant. And so I chose not to vote. And I will never do that again. And to me, just representing everybody is so important, that I'm not, I mean, I'm not somebody that goes and raps on doors because I'm too old and disabled, but in any way, I support the need to vote and the need to stand up, I mean, for issues that matter to us, such as the climate. And the way the government is going right now is so adverse to anything that means anything to me that it's really disheartening.
Sorry.
So I'm going to use that as a jumping off point to just share with you, and I'll put it into the chat, the RSVP. But if you really are passionate about voting, you still have some questions about how it's going to happen this year, that might be one thing. Or you'd like to know how to activate others to vote, right? You feel like Anne feels, how do we just get more people voting? I honestly don't care how you vote, just go out and use your voice, right? The Matriots is having a voting how-to Zoom on Thursday afternoon at 4. So if it's something that you feel like you could use, or if it's something you'd like to share with a friend, I'll put the link in the chat. And while I do that, I will ask Brenda Ross to introduce yourself.
So hi, everybody. I'm Brenda. For me this year, it's about restoring a collective responsibility within the citizens of the United States. I think that somehow we've lost that caring about each other, and then that collective responsibility leads to healthcare for all and good healthcare for all, which then hopefully would decrease that inequality gap, and then that responsibility for environment, different groups of people within America, education. But for me, it's collective responsibility, and then all the issues, how they play into that, and that hopefully we can find our American soul again and start to care about each other.
Yeah, that's a thoughtful way to bucket those ideas together. I appreciate that. That helps me think about the lens of those things all being similar in that way. Julie, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Julie Harrop. I'm Wendy's friend. The issues that are most important to me are healthcare and women's rights. The environment is right up there as well, but those two are real triggers for me. And I don't like seeing, I've got 3 girls in the 21 to 24 age range, and I feel like they're educated and would be greatly affected if their choices were limited. And while I mean, I don't feel like I could ever have an abortion myself, I don't want to make that decision for anybody else. I have absolutely no idea your circumstances, your goals, and I just don't feel like anyone should decide that for me. And healthcare, I've been fortunate enough to have good healthcare my entire married life, but I have certainly seen, working in a doctor's office, people that don't, and sometimes how their care is different than others, and it really bothers me. And I feel like, I don't know if it's universal health care, I don't know what the answer is, but I feel strongly, regardless of your financial background, you should have very good health care in this country, and anything less is just unacceptable for me.
Yeah, and I think just to put that together with Connie's idea of economic instability and such haves and have-nots, COVID has really pointed it out on the healthcare front too, right? So yeah, exactly. It's really been laid bare. Corna, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Corna does not have a first name.
You're like Cher.
My name is Nadine Corna. I'm a friend of Wendy's, and I'm really happy to join the group. I really am passionate about everything so far everyone has said. But I think what really got me really crazy was the immigration in the beginning and the pulling apart of the children and this stupid wall that we want to build, or whoever wants to build it. I think we've just lost our humanity in the United States. We have lost our, yes, the fabric. I've forgotten which one of you wonderful women said that. It is the fabric of our humanity that I think Donald Trump has just drilled down and, and the climate, sorry, and the climate.
Yeah.
The fact that we are burning in the West, we are flooded down south, the East Coast. My brother had a beautiful home in Cape Cod, which he sold because he's so afraid that the water's going to come and take that house away. So, I mean, it's changing our lives. He is changing our lives. We need to get rid of him. And as for what I have done in the past, I was a big marcher for women's rights long ago, and I still feel very, very strongly, I forgot who said that too, very strongly about that. And I'm really worried to death about the Supreme Court right now. Worried to death. The ACA hangs in the balance. Women's rights hangs in the balance. And I think what really kills me is that there's this philosophy that we should go ahead and have all these children, but there's no safety net in the United States. We can't even get childcare passed for women who work. I'm sorry, I just could go on for 20 minutes probably, and you'll all be asleep. Those are some of the things that really, really bother me. Really bother me.
Well, it's clear that you're an impassioned voter, so it's worthwhile to know what is motivating you, right? Otherwise, it's easy to stay home from the polls. Yeah,
I don't think I've ever stayed home. Yeah, not ever.
Yeah. Judith.
Oh, well.
I did put you to sleep.
No, you didn't. You didn't. No, I was thinking about what you were saying. I don't want to repeat everything everybody else has said because but those are all part of my concerns too. But right now, what I'm mostly concerned about is the Supreme Court. And in fact, I've done a few things with that. Some of the people here know that I've already sent out a petition. It was sent to me, but I've sent it out to maybe 50 more people. A petition asking Republicans in the Senate to not go through with the passing on the nomination for the Supreme Court, because as I forgot now what I want to call you Corna too. I forgot what your
It's Nadine.
Nadine.
Yep.
Said I mean, there's so many things hanging in the balance for that. I mean, Roe v. Wade, the ACA. So many things, and the environment, and the other thing I'm concerned about is I'm really concerned about the world that I'm handing down to my grandchildren.
Amen.
Because we're not looking like a democracy anymore. We're actually starting to look a little bit more, I hate to say this, a little bit more like Hitler's Germany, and it's very frightening.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's probably even some activism that some of us want to do before we get to the election in terms of working the phones and sending postcards to senators, right? So that,
right.
But again, it feels like an action you can take, right? Pressure works.
I'm all ready to. A friend of mine wrote to me the other day, and she said to find out if there's any demonstrations in front of Portman's office. She said she's ready to get arrested. I don't know that I want to get arrested, but no. I would go to a demonstration in front of his office, if I find one that's in progress. So that in planning.
Great. Well, thank you all for sharing those ideas. And I hear many of them with my heart really hitting me in my own sort of emotional gut. I would love now if I could call on Wendy and Cheryl in turn to just say a little bit about why you wanted your friends to learn more about the Matriots, and maybe who or what moved you to become original income founding members. Wendy, can I call on you first?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think you talked about the passion and the scared for. And for me, to echo Judy, it's a whole generation of children, our grandchildren, but most importantly, those kids we don't even know. And so under those children, or for those children's well-being, all the issues you talked about are so important. So why I became a Matriot? Oh, around 3 years ago, although it kind of feels like 1,000 years now, Margie Williams, whom a lot of you already know, invited Cheryl and me to a house party. And it was actually in a house. It was in her
Shocking.
I was really angry and really frustrated about the 2016 election. I had spent a lot of time sending kind of ranting emails to my senator and my representative in Washington, D.C. But at the house party, 3 of the founders of the Matriots shared this idea that change most likely would not happen top down, it would happen bottom up. That the down tickets in our local and state elections really do matter. And this started to make sense to me. It felt like someplace where I could be involved and help and not just be sending out nebulous emails. Because locally we can begin by making policy changes in our own communities that help the people we're close to. And they also talked about the fact that we needed qualified women in these positions to enact good policy and to represent us. And that qualified women who would enact policy that helps rather than politicians who are just trying to gain power. It's policy that works for justice and equality. And so I feel strongly that we need to support these local women who are in running for political office, and that maybe some of those women from Ohio will take their policy, their good policy, to the national level, and that'll help all of us.
That cheese in the refrigerator.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Cheryl, you were in that same living room. What were your big takeaways? What made you say yes?
Yeah, I think similar to Wendy, I was frustrated. What I really liked was the idea of starting to work locally. And I heard that then and I understood it, but I see it more and more now, you know, just in issues with policing and things like that. You're seeing different responses in different local communities depending on what's happening there and who's in charge. And I feel like there was a lot of frustration at the upper levels of government where we feel like we don't have a lot of control except for sending those emails and letters. And I wanted to do something I felt like was a little more purposeful. And I was a little hesitant because I thought, oh, a political action committee, I'm really, you know, politics. No. But what I really liked about this group is that it's not partisan. It is women for women, trying to put women in positions so that we can push gender equality across the board. I feel like if women have better rights and are in better positions, everybody's in a better position. So I really, everything about this group was something I wanted to get involved with. After I joined, I got involved with my local politician, Beth Liston. And, you know, I put her sign in my yard and I made a small donation and I sent postcards. And so I actually felt like I was actually doing something, you know, I mean, I could still rant, you know, but I was actually making a positive forward change. And Beth has been in office now here in Ohio, and I feel like she's doing a really good job. She's up for election again this fall. And if I had it moved out of my lovely neighborhood, I would be working for her again. But I feel like that was another thing that really was the key for me, getting connected with local politicians. And then I think the last thing is just, as I look at the big picture, My party, I don't think is very strong in a lot of ways. And the only way to build that strength, I really feel, is to get good people in local areas and let them build up experience and build up their name recognition and build my party again in the state of Ohio so that we can go on to maybe put some better leaders in Congress.
Wow, fantastic. I've never heard that last element. That's really thoughtful. Thank you, Cheryl.
I think it's important.
I might borrow that from you.
Go for it. Yeah.
This, of course, was endorsed by the Matriots both in 2018 and 2020. Oh, look, I have Mindy Gallick sitting in the waiting room.
Oh, good.
And while Mindy gets connected, we'll of course come back and let her introduce herself. But I want to introduce any of you who don't know her to one of our board members, Sue Bottigi. She lives in Licking County. She joined the board just in January, right? But has been on the finance committee previous to that. So I'll let you introduce yourself and maybe just talk a little bit not only about your Matriots journey, but what's important kind of about our founding and what's important to you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of you ladies for joining us tonight. This has been a great discussion. And I joined Matriots in 2017 because, like many of you, I was very frustrated with things that were going on. I live in Licking County. It's a very conservative, crazy area. Larry Householder is my state representative, and I think that's what really made me just take it to another level, because this was back in 2017. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy's a buffoon. So, and my first job out of college was working in the state legislature for the House Republican caucus, and they were nothing like they are now. They were honorable men, could care less about Roe v. anything like Roe v. Wade, issues like that. Boom, move on. Let's do something different. And the change in the party has been so overreaching and not anything that I can relate to any longer. So I was out, about it, and then somebody introduced me to Sally Crane, who actually created the Matriots concept and took it to the level that we have today. And so I joined in, and I just asked that I be active in it. I had recently retired, and I had some time on my hands. So joined the finance committee. I'm a former banker. They always put you on the finance committee. That's fine. And so now I'm the treasurer of Matriots. And I want you to know that we are doing so well financially, thanks to people like Shiloh and all of you and the people on our board. Especially, we were just going great in January and February. And instead of having house parties, we're like, what do we do? But the renewal rates and of our existing members have been super strong, and they've added to their donations from the past. And we're bringing in new people as well. So there's many levels of giving here, many ways to help Matriots. And I'll just leave you with this one thought. Our vision is to envision a future where women have equality, influence, and power. And I just can't help but thinking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg at this point. That I just think she really resonates with those visions. And and here's a woman who started from the ground level up. And as many of you have mentioned, we're not going to have good leaders 10 years from now if we don't start now and encouraging them and helping them. There's two ways to get into politics. One is you're born into it. You're a Bush or a Romney or a Kennedy, or you work your way up. And it's those ladies in the latter group that we're probably focusing on more than those that are like legacy people, because they don't, they're off and running maybe. And there are some fabulous candidates that we are endorsing this year, 64. So very, very excited. And we've had great success in years gone by with our endorsements getting elected, which is proof that our our Matriots PAC is powerful.
In fact, we have a 59% win rate so far that we're exceptionally proud of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mindy, I want to give you an opportunity, if you are in a position, to say hello and introduce yourself.
Something's wrong with the pictures here.
Sorry, I had to get out of another menu to. Hi, I'm Mindy. How are you guys? Sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
I got caught up at work. What do you guys want to know?
Mindy?
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. It's no problem. What we have just completed is just some introductions where people gave us kind of the top thing, the issue or the idea or the policy that is driving you to the polls on November 3rd. Do you want to share that with us? What's in your mind as you're thinking about voting?
The biggest thing in my mind is getting Trump out of office. I'm not going to lie about that.
You're not alone on this call.
Yeah, no.
Like, oh my God. I cried the first time he got elected. I can't even imagine. That would be the big thing. And then just making sure we get the right judges in place and the right, support for community. I feel like.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll let you catch your breath. I'm going to jump off from Sue's talking about our 64 candidates that we are endorsing for November 3rd. I put the link to our 2020 endorsed page in the chat, and I'll put it in an email to you tomorrow too if you want to spend more time with it. The great thing about sharing it with you that way, of course, is that you can actually click over to their bios or click over to their donate pages or whatever action you might want to take to get to know them a little bit better. But that's a great resource for you to have. I don't think this is a group that is probably asking yourself the question, well, why focus on women? But I do take that question often in these virtual house parties. And so I put together a little screen about that. And I think that a lot of what you touched on it really points to this, right? So this is research that came out in 2017 about how women are really observed and creating results that are different from men once they're in office. They work harder to actually serve their constituents. So they're less dedicated to the party platform and exactly voting along those party lines, and more interested in hearing from their constituents and trying to serve what their voters tell them is important. They devote more time to those constituents. They actually introduce more bills and resolutions, and they bring home more spending to their district. So, we like to talk about bringing home money to your district sometimes as pork, but it's not pork if it's your district and you needed that bridge repaired, right? So if you need a stop sign on your neighborhood corner, get a woman elected. Their policy positions, as we talked about, are more responsive, and this is key to our nonpartisanship. They are, in fact, more collaborative with the opposite party. So the Matriots has been so excited to back women of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, but not just those. We've had Greens, Libertarians, and Independents that we've also backed along the way. And of course, as you can imagine, some of those additional party backings come in the odd years, because when people are running for the state house, they tend to need the backing of their party in order to have enough money to run the kind of ads, to run the campaigns that they need to win. I want to show you just a very brief video from Sue's colleague on our board, Rita McNeil-Danish. She just talks a little bit more about why that nonpartisanship is important. And it'll take me just a minute to get this going here. There we go.
My parents once told me, you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. That couldn't be more true today, here in 2020. There are a number of things that affect our daily lives that are decisions made by politicians. And you have to engage and decide that you want to be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. But what's also important is the reality that COVID-19 didn't really know race. It didn't know party. It didn't know gender. And so the Matrix creates an opportunity for you to, one, get engaged and be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. But it also is nonpartisan. And that becomes important because as we engage in politics and we deal with these issues that are affecting us every day, the partisanship shouldn't be there. It needs to go away. And the reality is we have power as we come together, not as we stand apart. I encourage you, I invite you to join the Matrix.
So I think that so beautifully speaks to what many of you pointed out, which is the civility, the lifting up of women and trying to be on each other's side and really finding a way, even when you disagree over policy, to find compromise, to find at least a way to talk to each other in a way that is civil and really advances the democracy. And that's very much a part of who we are in terms of our values. We talk a lot about our values because we did not adopt one of the political party platforms. And so what we did instead was try to define the kinds of values that we wanted to share with our candidates, and of course that we share with our members, because those who we asked to become members or renew their membership, whatever the case may be, all share the same set of values. And here they are. So these are the first 4 questions on our endorsement application. And they really have to do with how women are going to be able to create economic stability and security, have control over their healthcare and their bodies, and live in safe communities where they can raise children and really contribute as entire citizens to the democracy. This one, I think, this one has really stuck out to me in 2020, given everything that we've talked about in the first 30 minutes of this call, right? We believe not to act is to act. And so you actually have to check that box and share that belief with us as you are running for office and seeking our endorsement. This is another piece that I will share with you in follow-up email so that you can spend more time with it. It also has our mission and vision, and on the back is in fact how we endorse. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that after we do the drawing exercise. It's not really drawing. I want to talk a little bit about the research that the Matriots did. When Sally Crane Cox, that Sue mentioned, and the others came back from the Women's March in 2017 and said, how are we going to take this energy and turn it into something amazing? They decided to be a political action committee. They decided to focus on Ohio. And they decided to create this bold goal of 50% women by 2028, right? Those are all things that we've already learned tonight. But then the question was, well, where do we sit today? And as it turns out, nobody's actually studying how many women are elected to office in Ohio. So we paid for the research to do that ourselves. So I just want to take your temperature and see if you have a wild guess as to what we've discovered. So if you have your pieces of paper, we're going to do this visually, and your pen. First question: how many seats as a percentage of elected offices in Ohio are held by women? And I don't know if this helps or hurts, but there are 17,412 elected seats in the state of Ohio. What do you guess? What's the number? Write the number on your paper and show us what it is, and we can all see it quickly. 12%, oh, a couple 12s, 14, 28, okay. I feel like Sue's cheating.
Big enough.
It is, in fact, 29%. And we know that the 2018 election actually moved the state house from being 24% women to 27% women. And that's the first year in which the Matriots were participating in endorsement. So we know we didn't do that alone, but we're going to take a little bit of the credit for moving that number at the state house. And we want to continue to move it down ballot as well. Okay, one more. If you flip your paper over, this is another number. Among Ohio's 88 elected sheriffs, how many of those positions do you imagine are currently held by women? 1, 0, yep, 2, 5%. Okay. Oh, 20%. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for playing along. The actual answer is 2. And we are super excited because this year we are backing sheriff's candidates in Summit and Hamilton County. So think about on a percentage basis what a difference we could make in that number if we were able to move both of those women into office. I want to share just a little bit more from the research here. You can take a look at it with me. So 29% of 17,000 offices, here's that sheriff number that is somewhat galling. And if you just think, many of you are probably familiar with the work of the Women's Fund of Central Ohio. They study these gender equity things, right? And it's almost that gender bias piece where when you think of the word sheriff, you automatically see a man's face pop into your mind, right? And we really think that there's a way for us to turn that corner in a lot of these. There are no elected engineers in the state of Ohio that are women. Here's kind of the story of why we take the approach that we do. This 37% is school board positions across the state of Ohio. And then as you go across, these are bigger and bigger offices ending with federal. 17% of our federal representatives are women. So not only does this show that gender bias, right? Like women are sort of allowed to serve on school boards, maybe because that is viewed as sort of a taking care of the children, taking care of the teachers sort of thing in a very female dominated school system. And then as we give them more power and more money, there are fewer and fewer women who are encouraged to move into those offices. So not only are we looking at the matriarchs to turn all of these into 50%, but we're really looking to be the resource and someone on their team when a school board member says, I think I want to move up. Help me figure out how to build the power and influence and raise the money to be able to take what I learned here and think about going to the State House or think about going to Washington. So these are really important findings. And on the back, again, I'll share it with you so you can spend more time, but this is really fun, especially if you didn't grow up in Central Ohio, to just look and see the variation at the county level. And the dark blues are more women serving in office, so you can see that those are perhaps not surprisingly clustered around the metro areas. All right, the last thing I want to share with you, and then I want to get to your questions. Is just a little bit about how we endorse. Because I think it's obviously the heart of what we do, and it is critical to our ability to be viewed as experts, both when you're thinking about investing with us and allowing us to choose who to invest those resources in, and when you think about voting with us. If you take our slate card to your polling center, you want to know that the people that we vetted really are going to be great at the job. So the endorsement process starts when we reach out to every single woman in the state who puts her name on a ballot. If we can tell by the name that she is female, she does not have to report that she's female. So if we see an Anne or a Brenda, right, we're gonna reach out to them at least 3 different times and tell them about our application process, state the deadline, share our values, and ask them to please apply. So we're getting in touch with them in the mail, or we're making phone calls, or we're emailing, wherever we can find them, because we really want to be able to back as many women as we can, or at least be able to interview them, right? So then we have a 24-member endorsement team of people from across the state of Ohio who are selected because they really have different life stories. They live in rural areas, they live in urban areas, they're men and women, they're Republicans, Democrats, Greens, what have you, right? They read all of the applications that we get in and make a recommendation for those that should be interviewed face-to-face. And here again, we really try to be generous. If we feel like they're checking the box of the values and they are really running a smart campaign, we want to talk to them. So then we interview in sets of 3 the women who are asked to the interview process. In between the application that the candidate sends us and the one-on-one interview, we have a different set of volunteers that essentially act as our Oppo research team, right? So who is the woman beyond the 4 corners of the application that she sent us? who are the other endorsements that she's looking for? How does she represent herself on, social media? Has she been quoted in the newspaper? So we bring all of those resources in too, so that we can really analyze with a little bit more complete data the way that they are matching our values primarily, and a little bit of talking about the strength of their opponent. So once we get to the point where the endorsement committee is arguing over who's going to get our endorsement and how much money that we're going to give them potentially, they're really looking for strength in 3 key areas. First and foremost, is it a values match? Second, are they running a serious campaign? That is not a question of whether they're running a winning campaign, because for just one reason, Ohio is incredibly gerrymandered. So they may be running a very, very smart campaign and maybe 3-1 in their district against any real chance of their ability to win, right? But do they know what their win number is? Do they know how much they have to raise? Do they know how they're going to raise it? And then the third bucket is that sort of lightning round of a woman who is a rising star. She knows that even if she doesn't win this year, she's going to put her name in for a different office, or maybe the same office in the next round. She really is hungry to take this public service and turn it into an office along the way. Or someone who is a first in that race. So for one example, in 2018, we backed the first woman, African-American, to run for Hamilton County Commissioner. So it really changes the definition of who's allowed to be policymakers, right? And who's allowed to even run. So those are kind of the lenses through which our endorsement committee looks when they're making recommendations about these candidates and about the support level. The final step then is the board, who gets to look at the endorsement recommendations and debate it themselves, maybe make some adjustments, and then we get to make the call and tell these women, we're endorsing you, we're sending you money, and we want to be on your team. So that's kind of how the endorsement process runs. And then as you have been getting to know us, you may have started to get some emails, or you can see on our website that we try to help you get to know those women, both through events, which of course are all online right now, and through the profiles that we write about them. So really trying to put them in front of our members so that everyone knows who they're invested in and how that race is going. So did I leave anything out before we take questions? I don't think so. Okay. Questions. What did I not cover or is burning in the back of your mind about the way that we work or how we... Go ahead, Judith.
Well, the thing that concerns me a little bit, it's very high-minded to be nonpartisan, but I don't know for sure how I feel about that, because most of the things I've been involved in are liberal. I've been involved with that group called NARAL, that's pro abortion rights, and Democratic candidates, and I really don't know if I can see myself donating money and putting a lot of effort into somebody who is a conservative and who is definitely not going to support those ideas.
And I had the same exact question.
Totally fair. And as you can imagine, it comes up, right? So I think about this in a couple of different ways. First of all, you should always invest in the women who you want to win in the next race. I think an investment in the Matriots is playing that long game toward being able to have civil conversations and be able to place women in office across the state who not only can move up and improve their parties, as someone said, right? Yeah. But also be able to create policy that does embrace conflicting points of view. I would also note that because of our dominion over bodies values plank, and because of the GOP in 86 out of 88 counties, their endorsement process requires someone to say that they will vote pro-life. We do end up in even numbered years being a little more tilted toward Democratic candidates because of the tension between the party platforms and our values as Matriots, right? It's easier in odd years for us to back women of every stripe because for the most part, you're not dealing with abortion very much directly at a school board level, right? And also because most of those sorts of races, you don't run on a party. And the parties don't endorse all the way down to school board. So they're not, those women are really on their own in terms of fundraising, but also able to make their own decisions about the kind of policy that they're going to implement because they don't have a party structure that they have to apply to as often. Sue, is there, yeah, say more about that.
Yeah, I share what you're thinking, and going through the endorsements, it's very difficult for Republican women to come to us because of their value system, and I've had very strong Republican women tell me, I'm out of Matriots, you're not endorsing Republicans, and I like to say, but yet I'm pro-life, and I'm like, well, you need to change your party because our values are our values, and we're not going to change those. So, you need to go back to your party and have those conversations with them. So out of the 64 women that we've endorsed, how many, 61 are running as Democrats, is that right, Shiloh? Now, we only had 8 women, I think, 8 women who are Republicans even come to us requesting endorsement, and we endorsed 3. And in one race, which is one of whom is Stephanie Kunze, who, I don't know, maybe some of you may be in her district, we also endorsed her opponent as well. So given our value, we're not going to back down of our values here, and hopefully we can make some changes here. My personal opinion is that Ohio right now is out here somewhere with a lot of crazy people, and that hopefully it may start coming down, and hopefully people, groups like Matriots will start asking people to be more open-minded about people's individuals' choices.
Yeah, I just want to say too, I mean, we talked earlier on this call about getting back to civility, and I think the way to do that is to be open to endorsing women from other parties if they have the same value systems. It's really not a matter of, are they a Democrat or a Republican? It's what are their value systems, and do they align with Matriots? Are they trying to put women into a better gender equity position? And I think, so it's upon us to say, and we can say we want things to be more civil, but we also have to take actions to show that too. And I think that's part of what the Matriots are trying to do.
Connie?
So how can I find out if a candidate who's running in my county has been endorsed by Matriot?
Are you able to see the chat over there? The second link that I posted is this year's class.
Oh, okay.
If you say the name though, I might be able to just tell you.
Marla Fassbacher. FAS, it's in Madison County.
What is she running for?
Prosecutor, Madison County prosecutor.
Okay, there is, here's what's coming to mind for me. And one way that we have yet to grow is to be able to endorse in all of those 17,000 races. At present, we endorse in the top 90 metropolitan size areas. So we aren't to village townships yet. It may be that we are not to Madison County prosecutor. I'm not sure what the line falls, honestly. And we're not yet endorsing in judicial races, save for the Ohio Supreme Court. So we intend to grow in both of those directions, but we are much more focused on being able to duplicate the quality and be able to do all of those kinds of endorsement processes that I described. So we're doing it carefully over time. So that may be the reason, but I can check on it for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay. So I have a goal of having 2,020 members in the year 2020, and I'm at about 1,600 today, because I not only want to get 64 women elected on November 3rd, but I want to start thinking about the 150 women that we hope to endorse in 2021. So as you're thinking about what you've heard tonight, how your values align, and what your budget is to take an action and become part of this political action committee, I really want you to think about joining the Matriots. We have memberships that start at $100, or we have memberships that start at fill in the blank. Just to lift up and praise our hosts, I do want to point out that both of them are founding members, which is $1,000 a year for more than 1 year. That's now called Equity Builder. And Sue and I are matriarchs, which is $10,000 over 4 years. So if you really think about where your passion and your budget align, that's the number that I want you to fall on. But you don't have to be alone in this, because tomorrow I'll follow up with all these links and stuff, and you can call on me for further questions one-on-one, or to ask the questions that pop up in your mind every night. Just as a parting thought about putting your money where your mouth is, essentially, I want to play a clip from our 2018 and 2020 endorsed candidate, Representative Kristen Boggs, who happens to be my representative here in downtown Columbus, about the realization that she went through about political giving. Here's that. Oop. I gotta share the screen if you're gonna see it, not just me. There we go.
When I ran for office, I assumed that the political giving that my husband and I did would come through me as the office holder. And my husband wanted to go to a fundraiser one night, and he was like, I was like, yeah, that's great, I'll write the check. And Adam, my husband, was like, no, I want to write the check. Well, I'll write the check. I've got the checkbook right here. And he's like, no, I'm going to write the check. I want to sign it. And what I realized in that moment was, my political giving, I had always thought of as a charitable contribution. And my husband had always looked at political giving as an investment. And when you think about what men have gotten on their return for investment versus what women have gotten, thinking about it as a charity, is two different things. And so I think as women, if we really want to shape Ohio in the vision that we think is best for our families, for our kids, we have to start thinking about political giving as an investment and not a charity.
As an investment and not a charity. We are a 527 PAC, not a 501c3, for what it's worth. Cheryl, Wendy, thank you. The greatest gift you can give the Matriots is to let us meet your friends and really represent who we are and what we would love for them to take part in. Sue, thank you for sharing your point of view from the board. And thank you to all of you for spending an hour with us. It was a delight to meet all of you, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Shiloh. I do also just want to
Bye.
encourage you to reach out to your local people. You know, if you can, it's always great to help them. Send postcards, make phone calls, put a sign in your yard. Those things are always important to them. So look at that list that Shiloh's going to send you. And, you know, that small action, you know, is very valuable to them. So I hope you'll consider that too.
And I'll give you a resource that we can
Thanks for the
connect you with.
invitation. Thank you.
I hope
Thank
to see
you
you
very
all
much.
at the museum in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice meeting you
Thanks,
all.
guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hit the check.
Okay.
Just us?
It's just us.
I thought that went pretty well, Shiloh.
Yeah, good. I think so too. They're clearly politically passionate. So now it's just a matter of giving them a minute to think about how we fit in their activism.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I'm afraid they're going to think we're too conservative.
Isn't that funny?
And they're all like older ladies.
Yeah.
You know, they're older. They're older ladies.
No, it was fascinating. I took all the notes about the things they were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they were extremely articulate. I mean, they were
Yeah.
on it. So
Yeah.
good for those ladies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I am working